Okay, so why don't you start off by introducing yourself, just a brief background on who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Heather Chelan. I'm 24. I make music. I write music, and I also write little, like 30-second songs about stuff I care about that I feel like I want to yell from the rooftops to the rest of the world. But I put it in nice song form so people will be more likely to listen to me. I'm married and I live in London with my husband, who's a producer, and my dog Rocky, who is the love of my life. And animals are one of the biggest, most important things to me in my life.
Aw,
I feel like a kindergartner when
great.
I say that. Like, hi, I'm Heather, and I like animals and music.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Light Up the Darkness podcast, a podcast that aims to normalize conversations about mental health in the Black community. As you just heard, today's episode, I have a conversation with Heather Chelan. Heather is an artist who creates these really funny 30-second meme PSAs songs. And the songs are not only beautifully done by an amazing singer, they are also catchy and pack a really important message. Here's a clip of the first PSA song I heard of Heather's that got me hooked.
The pandemic isn't over just because you're over it. The pandemic isn't over just because you're over it. Let me tell you again.
Amazing, right? So I've been holding on to this episode for a while now, and I thought today was a perfect day to put it out. Election day brings with it, particularly in 2020, lots of anxieties for us and stress. So here's my offering to you and us to help us get through. Don't forget to stay tuned to the end. Heather will be performing a really nice, mindful moment at the end of the episode. So stay tuned for that. Let's get into this episode.
Hi, Heather.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me today.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
How's your day going so far?
Not so bad. I had therapy this morning. That's always
Oh,
a nice way to start the day, and it gets me out of bed at a decent time.
good. All right. So you're ready for our conversation?
Yes, I know. It was like a nice prep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'm just gonna jump into the part of the conversation that's kind of the deepest.
Sure. I'm ready.
Okay. So, can you tell me a little bit about a moment where you felt was your darkest in terms of your dealing with depression? Maybe an experience you had where you felt like you didn't know what to do or how to come out of it?
Sure. Yeah. So I was kind of loosely diagnosed, but not really diagnosed with anxiety and depression when I was 18. Basically, I just took a little quiz at my doctor's office and they gave me antidepressants. And I was like, cool, pills fix it. So sick. I didn't really know what I was taking. And I was kind of on and off those for a couple years. And in that time, I had just graduated high school. I moved out of my parents' house for the first time, moved back in with my parents, and then I moved down to LA. So I'm from Seattle, so I moved a couple states away. And when I was in LA, I didn't really know what I was doing or what my goal was. I was just kind of like there and existing and not existing in the best way. I kind of had no idea who I was or what I was doing. I was just like drinking and smoking a lot and not really doing stuff with my days. And after about a year and a half, I hated my job. I was working at PF Chang's and it was fine at first, but then I ended up hating it. And so I was like, okay, well, to solve all my problems, I just need to get a different serving job. And so I got this serving job at this cute little place in Hollywood, and I thought that would fix all my problems. But 2 weeks into that, every single day I was getting up to go to work and I had migraines, and I realized that that was from me clenching my jaw in my sleep, which I had never done before. And I was like crying on my way to work. I was crying in between taking orders. I felt really overwhelmed even by like the smallest request. If one table asked for orange juice, it just felt like, oh, like it felt monumental, felt like my world was crashing down. And I just had no idea what was going on. And I was getting kind of scared because I felt like a zombie and like a victim to this mindset, and I had no control over it. And after about 2 weeks of having this job, I I hit a point where I told my new boss, you know, when you're trying to make a good impression, I was like, I'm sorry, I have to go. Like, is there any way I can leave early today? Because I just like cannot even breathe. And she let me go because apparently she works with a lot of young women and mental health and stuff like that. So she was really understanding.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and she was a Black woman. I loved her. She was honestly great. And she let me go
Wow,
home.
amazing.
Yeah, I know. I want to go back and like thank her because I've never spoken to her again. And I want to go back and thank her because she was
No,
so nice and understanding. Um,
like destined to be there in that moment for you.
yeah, right. It could have been any
Yeah.
other kind of boss, like a really less
Yeah.
understanding boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went home and I was calling a whole bunch of different people. I was kind of calling my mom and freaking out, and then I called my best friend at the time, and my mom was like, "Okay, you need to come home tonight, come back to Seattle and like see our doctor and see if you can change your meds or something." And I was like, "All right, cool."
Mm.
So I called my work back and I was like, "Hey, you know how you sent me home early? I'm actually never coming back. Like I'm just going to leave tonight. I have to go back for my family stuff, or you know, I was just like I just have a family issue I need to go for." So I booked my ticket back to Seattle and I was planning on leaving in like 6 hours. And then in that time, I ended
Mm.
up calling my best friend at the time and she was like, "I think you just need to get out of the country if you can. Like I just think you need to go somewhere and like try to recenter
Mm.
yourself." Which is definitely not anything I've ever done. I've never just like, I mean, I'm kind of spontaneous, but I've never like upped my life like that and left the country. But I was like, yeah, okay. Um, sure, that sounds like a great idea. My brother, who's still my brother, he was in London at the time. That's what I was trying to say. He was in London working for a couple months and he had an extra room in his
Mhm.
Airbnb. So I just called him and I was like, hey, can I come hang at your house in your Airbnb or hang at the room, whatever? And he was like, yeah, roll through. So I went back to Seattle that night. And in that same day, I booked a ticket to London and then I left from Seattle a week later. And I spent my whole time in Seattle selling like this lipstick, trying to raise money so I could just survive in London because I spent all my money on the ticket and I was able to get enough
Mhm.
that I just came over here and was like, cool. And I recentered myself. I got new meds that I eventually ended up getting off of, but that was kind of like a huge
Mhm.
turning point in my life. And then getting to the UK kind of started to pull me out of it and kind of started to put into
Yeah.
perspective maybe where I wanted to go with my life. If I
Yeah.
started questioning if I even wanted to be in LA anymore, all that.
Yeah. So that happened fast.
It was really
Where
fast.
you
It was really fast.
you know, like so you moved to the UK and what changed for you? Like what kind of turned your path to a more like healing direction?
Mm. Yeah, so when I came here to visit, I ended up meeting a guy and we started dating, which when I came over, I was like, I'm not getting Tinder. I'm not getting, like, I had pep talks in the mirror, like, do not get Tinder. Do not get Tinder. Like, I know you're stoked to be in
I can
London, but like,
visualize this.
like I'm not exaggerating 100%. I was like, do not do it. Like, you are not here. You're not here for boys or men. You are here to work on yourself. So I was like, okay, cool. And then I met a guy and we started dating, and I was like, damn it. And my mom was like, damn it. Everyone was like, damn it. And, but like
Yeah.
he ended up being incredible and now we're married way down the line. But when I got back to LA, we were dating, freshly dating, and I got back to LA and my lease was almost up on my apartment. And at that point I was still planning on like finding a new job and figuring out my life in LA. And then my other brother gave me a call and he was like, hey, I've just been thinking about you and it's just kind of been on my heart to tell you that like I don't think you should live in LA anymore. And like I think maybe you should go back to Seattle and live with mom and dad, save money, and just kind of like if you want to keep doing music, you can do it there, and you can take lessons and just get better there. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, cool. So I just decided right then and there, I was like, that sounds like a great idea. I don't have a job. I don't know where I'm going to live. So I might as well just go home. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I went back to stay with my parents for a while. And then as I was dating Fred, I kind of realized that I wanted to be with him. So I just kind of started slowly moving in the direction of moving to London. And
Mm-hmm.
that took a couple years. And in that time, I kind of, I started going to see a therapist, and that was really helpful for what I was dealing with at the time, which was just like, or specifically what I wanted to work on, like my temper. I still have a bad temper, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just kind of good for that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but not really like, I wasn't really working on like who I am as a person or like where I want to go. And
Right.
that has actually only become clear to me in like the last year or so, just since moving to London, trying to start my life here. Because the whole time before I moved to London, I was just like treading water. I was just kind of in limbo. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really have any direction. I was just kind of floating in the abyss. Um,
Yeah.
and then so once I got here is when I started kind of being like, oh, I really love animals and I love working with animals. Why is that
Mm-hmm.
not something I can, you know, work in? And then started writing some more music. And I was like, oh, I love music in this way that I'm doing it now, and like my weird little songs. So that's fairly recent. It's the last like 3 or 4 years of my life has basically just been like a big shrug,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the process to getting to today,
Yes.
well, how would you describe today in terms of your there's your like mental health journey?
Yeah. Okay. So I've been seeing a new therapist for like the last 6-ish months, and she has
Mm-hmm.
really helped me a lot. She's amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
just in that time, it's like, so I guess the bigger picture has been kind of revealed to me about how much I love animals and how I love doing music in this new way. But then in
Mm-hmm.
therapy in the last 6 months, it's just kind of been helping me hone in on like who I am, which sounds kind of like
Right.
the cliche, but I haven't really known who I am for so long, because I was just
Right.
like, I've always been kind of really deeply embedded in the things around me. Like I grew up in the church, and when I was in the church, I was at church like
Mm.
3 days a week, singing in choir, working in the youth
Oh wow.
group. I was there like, it was like a huge part of my identity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then so when my brothers moved out, who I was like really close with, I clung to church even more. And so I just really like, I was like, this is who I am. I'm Heather. I like write songs and I go to church. And then so when I ended up
Mm.
leaving the church in the last a year or so, I I really had no idea who I was, because I was like, oh my gosh, like if I'm not Heather the Christian, then what am I? So I've just kind
Mm-hmm.
of been working with that, but then it kind of scales down to everyday conversations. It's like what are even my opinions, and like how do I like to voice my opinions, and what are the things I like day to day, and what are the things I even like to do, and so I've just kind of been
Mm-hmm.
on this journey of like accepting what my body needs and what my mind needs, and
Mm-hmm.
like being gracious with myself. And like the other day I was at the dog park, and this my dog was playing with this lady's dog, and this lady went, ooh, and I said, 4. And my husband was like, what? And I said, I thought she said how old when she said ooh. I thought she said how old or something. And in the moment, it was like, okay, Heather, who I've always been, would just be like, oh, you stupid idiot. Like, why did you think she said 4? Like, you embarrassed yourself. But then, like, me trying to work on myself was like battling with that. And like, no, that was a tiny mistake. It's kind of funny. No one thinks you're an idiot. Like, no one's even
Yeah.
thinking about it anymore. It's all good. So I feel like I'm in that in between of like pushing back against my old self and trying to come into this new accepting being, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And do you feel like a lot of that is coming from a combination of things, not just the therapy, like other aspects of your life?
Yeah, 100%. I think the therapy is helping a lot with like my self acceptance, and all that. But I think finally feeling like I kind of have a goal in my life, or I'm at least working towards some blurry vision of a goal has helped me so much, because I haven't really, even when I moved to LA to do music, I didn't really know what my goal was. I just kind of did that because I thought that's what my next step should be. But then kind of realizing really what I want to do and how much I love dogs and stuff like that, I think it's brought me a new kind of joy. Even if I don't really have an end goal, I'm just kind of like moving in the direction of things I love. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
That's awesome. So I know for some people that I've spoken to, it's kind of like a daily effort to stay on this kind of like healthy healing path in terms of your mental health.
Right.
Do you feel the same way for yourself? Like each day you have to be very intentional?
Yes. I feel like I say, oh, I'm working on that like 5 times a day. It's like, how many things can I be working on at once? But yeah, 100%, 100%. Before it gets to a stage of being natural, I have to get out of 24 years of practice of like the wrong thinking. You know, it's like,
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
so good at like letting disappointment take over my entire body and ruining my whole day. It's like, I kind of like yesterday I got some food and I was prepared to be disappointed because I was like, in any other situation, if I got this food and it wasn't absolutely banging, I could easily let it ruin my entire night. But I said before I ate it to my friend I was with, I was like, okay, listen, I'm prepared to hate this and be sad for just like 5 minutes, you know, but like I'm saying this out loud.
Yeah.
It's like just kind of recognizing that and anticipating it a little.
Yeah, you're more self-aware.
Yeah,
You know,
100.
it
And
sounds like.
it can be a little exhausting, I think, trying to be like so self-aware all the time, and because I don't want to be too
It seems like
analytical
it.
of myself. It definitely is. It definitely is. I don't want to like overanalyze all my, because I'm trying to get away from like overanalyzing myself, but then at the same time, in order to do that, I have to kind of analyze myself and my thoughts. So it's kind of like a paradox.
Yeah, it is. One thought that I've always had, I'm not a therapist or like I've never studied mental health at all, just from life. The thing that I've always noticed or thought about was that depression or anxiety in particular kind of appears in a way that it's very like internal, and you're constantly talking to yourself in a way that's not helpful.
Yes.
And yeah, and that's why a lot of people just don't even know what's happening, because it's all happening internally. And it's like a battle with yourself each day. To kind of like not succumb to that. And I was just wondering if you had felt that way, like that is something that you dealt with.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'm actually reading The Power of Now right now by, I think I'm pronouncing it right, by Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, right. Yes.
I think, yeah. And I'm not finished because it's like a lot to take in. That's like all about just disassociating from your thoughts. And I haven't really grasped the concept fully, but I've really enjoyed trying and like reading about it. But it's like just not identifying as your thoughts, because it's like, even I think if I, ever reach enlightenment or something, or just become like this super holistic being, weird thoughts and depressing thoughts are still going to creep in. And I think it's just about like seeing them, recognizing them, and not letting them take over and not being run by them, I suppose. But it's like, we're all kind of addicted to thinking. And I know I am. I'm like addicted to like analyzing and just like running through scenarios and feeling like I have a grip on stuff because I'm like running over it a bunch. But it's just kind of like not letting that rule your life. But it's much easier said than done. Much easier said than done. But 100%.
Right.
We have a million thoughts a day, and it's like, are we going to let them drive us, or are we just going to let them be and then drive ourselves, you know?
Yeah. And that, I think that comes with being more present,
Yes.
hence the title of the book.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Um, okay. So in that, kind of vein, our thoughts kind of dictating us or succumbing to our thoughts. I feel like I dealt with depression. I was never really diagnosed with it. But uh, I always, like, as a younger person, I always had this like vision of myself in my head that was like not good. Like, you are not good enough. And that's changed over the years, but I wonder if you've felt like, did you have a moment where you looked at Heather like from the outside looking at yourself as you're not good or you're not good enough? Have you ever felt that way?
All the time. All the time.
Okay.
Oh my, all the
So
time.
can
Oh
you
my gosh.
can you compare how Heather viewed herself that moment when you were a waitress in, was it in LA?
Yeah. Hmm.
And now to how you view Heather today? Like what are the differences?
That's interesting. I think I was a lot more lost. Um, and I think I was just kind of doing what I thought I needed to be doing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like since I was still part of the church, I kind of had this list of rules or this doctrine that I like thought I needed to be following, but then also like, oh, well, I'm this age and I look like this or whatever. And like, these are the things I need to be doing. And I think I was just going along with the flow without really knowing what my goal was, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now I'm just, I mean, still, I definitely compare myself to others and like have really bad days where I don't think very highly of myself. But I think now I'm just getting a better grasp on, because even if I don't think highly of myself, at least I know who I am that I'm not thinking highly of. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
at least like I don't think highly of myself today, but like I know what kind of person I am that I'm like pooping on right now. That was a very a very elegant way, very elegant way of putting it, I think.
Message received.
Yeah. Whereas like LA, I was just like, oh, I feel sad and like I don't think I'm cool, but like I didn't even really know what I was and like why I didn't think I was cool. I was just like, I'm just kind of
Right.
existing and just like a fish
Mm-hmm.
out of water, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And today you can see yourself more fully, you think?
I think so. I'm still learning. I genuinely feel like every single day I'm like learning more about myself and my needs and stuff and like how I want to go about in the world. Um, but I think it's helping me just kind of have a better grasp on reality. Like, so if I see people from my high school who are absolutely killing it, we're all the same age, but you know, they look like they're just leaps and bounds ahead of me. I feel like I'm just, I mean, I say this, but still have really bad days, but like, I'm just able to look at them a little bit more and think like, but I'm still doing it. Like, I still have my own
Mm-hmm.
thing going. Like, even if my career isn't where theirs is, like, I'm happy with my personal life. And like, I'm happy that I've discovered the things I want to do in my life. And I'm happy that I'm learning how I like to spend my days and like what kind of morning routine works for me. Like, those are the things that I'm kind of trying to celebrate. But man, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a daily challenge, I would say.
absolutely.
Um yeah, and I think everyone's on that path for their entire lives, like
Yeah.
getting, so it's like a lifelong um journey to just being the best you, I guess.
Yeah. And
You
it's
can
a
be.
commitment. It's a
Yeah.
commitment as well, I think.
Mhm. Definitely.
I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people I don't, sometimes I get scared saying this kind of thing because I don't want to seem like, well, I'm out here doing it and like more people need to do it like me, because I don't believe that. But I feel
Mm-mm.
like a lot of people are out here just kind of like floating along. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I just so don't want to do that. Like when I started therapy and stuff, I was just like, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Heather. Here's all my childhood trauma. Like, let's come on. Like can
Let's
we
get this
like
going.
yeah, let's get this going. I want to find inner peace. I want to be calm. I want to be accepting. Let's do it. You know, but I just
Yeah.
don't want to like live with like when I just feel myself walking around angry all the time or something like that. I'm just like, I just don't want to live with this. I just want to be so. I'm not a very calm person. I don't know. I talk quickly. I talk a lot. I'm energetic. I feel like I think
Mm-hmm.
about a million things at once. So just like overall, I'm not a super calm person, but I would love to be calm, like
Mm-hmm.
within myself and like accepting of circumstances and stuff like that. You know, that's the kind of
Mm-hmm.
peace and calm.
I appreciate you saying that though, because a big part of the reason why I wanted to have this podcast is because I think um it's hard for a lot of people to even start this kind of a journey that you're
Mm,
on. And they either don't have access to, um, like any sort of support
right,
of any kind, or just don't know what to do.
right.
And you just talking about your experience is like helpful because, perhaps others can hear this and they'll feel like, okay, maybe I can do this too, or maybe I should try something just to get started, and that it's not like a quick fix. It's not something that be like, oh, I'm depressed. Let's go handle this, and
Yes.
it's over. It's kind of like it's a lifelong intentional
Mm.
journey.
Yes, yes,
So,
absolutely. I actually just saw something the other day that reminded me of I don't it was something I feel like I consume so much on Instagram it's hard to remember what everything actually says, but it said something um like get therapy before you need therapy. I mean, I know therapy is not the only answer, but I guess whatever route that is for you, um I feel like a
mm-hmm,
lot of people will wait until they're at rock bottom. And then I also feel like it's extra hard to find a therapist when you're at rock bottom because you're just like,
mm-hmm,
like just somebody help me. Like I don't know what's going on, and just like anybody, you know. But if you're a little bit above that, or like a little bit more functioning or something in a better headspace, then I feel like you can assess better and kind of just set yourself up for when you hit rock bottom, or just like so you could be better
mm-hmm.
prepared for when your mental health starts to slip or something. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of I feel like it's one of those things like you don't need it until you need it, and I feel like more people should
Mm-hmm.
prepare even if they feel like they're in a good place. I genuinely think everyone would benefit from therapy. Absolutely every single person in the entire world.
I happen to agree with that.
Yes, yes. It's not like a
um,
broken person only thing. First of all, we're all broken, but it's not like a
mm-hmm,
like, oh, I don't do therapy. I don't need that. Like I can do this on my own. Like
mm-hmm.
no, that is you doing it on your own. That's you just like using a tool to do it or to figure it out. Anyway, don't let me get too preachy.
No, I mean that's something that we deal with, like thinking about, like looking at yourself and saying, I don't need this, or I can get through this, particularly coming from like Black communities. We, for the most part, don't talk about mental health.
Right.
So, yeah. And so, I've talked about this on previous episodes where many of us come from families where there clearly were people struggling. We've seen it, but no one ever talked about it. It's like a hush 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 situation.
Right.
And people are like, oh, go to church and pray, or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
nobody needs therapy, or it's kind of looked down upon,
Yeah,
to
or
even,
weak.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, I mean, that's like like a kind of a barrier to get over, particularly for Black folks.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So, and that's why I think like, therapy, as you said, everybody could use therapy, but I feel like there's other outlets for people to like get started on that healing journey that might be, maybe eventually lead them to therapy.
Right.
Um, so like kind of like a little trying to think of the analogy, but I can't right now. Kind of like dipping their toe in the water of like
Right.
healing. Yeah.
Right.
So, like what could that be? Like
Journaling.
meditation,
Yeah, meditation.
journaling. Yes,
Uh,
journaling is a big one.
yoga has really helped me.
Hmm.
Specifically like going to a class. Like I feel like it's good for my body when I do it at home, like on YouTube and stuff, but it's good for my mind and body, especially when I'm like in a class and it smells like
Hmm.
lavender and there's nice
God, yes.
music and they're just like, they just have such a nice, soft voice. And it just like gets me in this
Yeah.
spirit. I'm just like, yes, bitch, yes,
Yes. Yes.
So
I
yeah,
feel the same way. Oh my God. Yoga has been my support. Like I haven't really been a person that's utilized therapy or accessed therapy probably when I needed to. um but yoga like I had this period of loss like a couple of years ago. I lost two of my actual dad and my uncle who pretty much raised me
wow.
within like 2 months of each other.
Oh wow.
And I was a hot mess. And I wanted to find a therapist because I felt like I needed it. Um, but like you said, when you're at rock bottom, it's kind of harder to find someone.
Right.
So I was having a really hard time doing it, and I was like drained by the process of looking for one. That's my
Yes.
insurance and all that nonsense. And so I just like gave up, and I found this yoga class that was taught by this Caribbean woman who is amazing.
Mm.
It was like the right combination of physical like work on your body and mental.
Hmm.
Um she, like you said, with the smells in the room, like she had
Yes.
like the oils and the incense and she had her little like I don't know what they're called, but those
It's like,
bowls.
yes, yes, yes. I
Um
love those. They're like, wah. Yes, I love
Yes.
those things.
And then I think she had like probably a meditation Spotify station on or something.
Yeah.
So the music was right. Like, and she would always say like, she would start the class with like, set your intentions for this class. And
Mm.
she would kind of give examples of what you might be doing, like what your intentions might be,
Yeah.
just kind of guiding you. That was so helpful to me. So anyway,
Yes.
that was a long explanation,
Yeah.
but
Listen,
I
I've
agree
talked so
with you
much.
on that.
I've talked so much, so don't worry. Yeah. No, it's seriously
Yeah.
amazing. It's seriously, and like with journaling too, I need to be more consistent. I'm consistent in spurts, sometimes I'll do it every day. But
Hmm.
there was this podcast. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was on Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard, and it was
Oh, okay.
the it was like the professor from Harvard or something like that who did the class on happiness, which is like the most enrolled class in the history of Harvard. Um, so he came on there and he mentioned how he even said he was like therapy is great. Therapy is great. I think anyone can benefit from therapy, but he was like, do not underestimate the power of journaling. He said like that can just be so
Wow.
helpful. And that kind of kicked me into gear to be like, okay, I just need to do that like as much as I think of it. Just not even filtering what you're saying, just kind of pen to paper in a stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is helpful. I
Yes.
I think I journaled like most of my life. Yeah,
That's so
it's been
good.
very helpful.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is.
It
It's so
forces you to slow
helpful.
down too, because you have to slow down to like write out each letter. So your thoughts have to slow down,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
never thought about it that way. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing so much about yourself. I really appreciate that.
Of course.
And I hope it will be helpful to anybody listening today.
Yes.
So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you if there's anything you want to share about what you're working on, any like upcoming projects or creative stuff that you have in the works.
Yeah, sure. So my goal, I just need to say I'm doing it. I'm putting out an EP by Halloween. I'm really scared to say
Say it.
that because it's like a deadline and I'm really scared and it's like only 2 months away, but I'm putting out an EP by
You can do it.
Halloween. I'll just whisper maybe Thanksgiving, but definitely Halloween.
Okay.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, I've been
Wow.
wanting to put out an EP for like a really long time, so I just need to.
Mhm.
I think quarantine is making us all just finally do things that we've been talking about.
It's true.
You know, yeah.
What is your music style? Like how
Uh,
would you describe it?
I'm really bad at describing it because I don't know why. And I'm scared to say the word pop, but I think I'm like R&B, poppy, maybe a little bit indie. But I'm also scared to say
Mm-hmm.
R&B because I'm not as quite as R&B as like her and SZA, who I love both, but I'm not as
Oh my
swaggy as
God. Me
them.
too.
I know it's like imagine them, but like a little less swaggy, and then like with some acoustic guitars, and
Okay.
maybe that's me.
Okay. I think I
Yeah,
can hear that a little
yeah. Hopefully that's good.
So that's great. Anything
Yeah.
else that you're working on?
No, I mean, otherwise, I'm just kind of doing my little PSA 30-second song things on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like
Which I
that. That's
love.
all. Thank you. That's all I have on the web. But that
Yes.
stuff that's been like my favorite creative outlet I think I've ever found, because like a full 3.5 minute song that goes super deep and like metaphorical and all that, I'm not always the best at.
Right.
But if I'm like, okay, today I'm gonna write a song about like what ducks can eat, I can just be like, bang, bang, bang. These are the facts. Like, no question, all facts, no printer. Take it or leave it, you know?
Love
So
that.
yeah, that's just gonna continue, and I'm really excited about those because it just feels like something hopeful and something to do, and it keeps me creative and stuff. So I suppose
Are
just
are
keep an
you
eye on
getting
them.
a lot of sorry.
No,
Are
it's fine.
you getting a lot of responses from people about
Yeah.
those?
Yes. I mean, I really only started going in on those in quarantine. Like I had the idea to do them, but I really only started having the time since lockdown, like the beginning of April. And since then it's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, for me, it's like taken off um
Mm-hmm.
a little. Like I'm not like making a career out of it or anything yet, but like I don't know, I'm just meeting loads of cool people like you, for example. And like
Yeah.
I've met some other people, and it's just like, I don't know, just kind of making connections, and it's just been nice. And I feel like if I just keep continuing, then it'll turn into something. And I feel like the response has been pretty good. And there aren't that many mean people. Some people are kind of mean. Everyone says I'm cringy, but
Mhm.
that's okay. It,
Oh, really?
yeah,
I feel like there's a like I mean it's comedic, it's
right,
like your talent, your voice is great, the songs are catchy. So
right.
like it's just like a really good mix and I'm glad that you're going to keep doing them because I think I love them. I know a lot of other people probably do too. So
Thanks,
thank you for
thanks.
sharing that with the world, especially
Rise
the
with the awkward
pandemic
pause.
song. That,
Oh yeah,
oh yeah.
oh yeah. That I don't even know how that happened. I just woke up one day and was like, oh, the internet likes this one. I see.
'Cause it just resonates. It
Yeah.
really resonates. Like it needed to be said. It really needed to be said. And you did it for us in such like a funny, like, I don't know, good song. It
I
was
try to be
just
nice about these
perfect.
things. I try, because normally if someone asks me about this, like, hey Heather, how do you feel about like breeding dogs or breeding French bulldogs? You know, I could stand on my soapbox and I'm like, we shouldn't be breeding these dogs. They can't breathe. But I'm like, if I put it into a song, then people are less likely to be defensive. They might laugh a little, and I'm like, yeah, but really though,
It's
you
perfect.
know.
It's really perfect.
Thanks.
For real. Like awesome. I'm glad that you started doing that.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Do you want to share where people can find your content?
Sure. So, my music name is Heather Chelan, Chelan. It looks like Chelan, but it's pronounced Chelan. And but my handles on everything like Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that is Heb on the web. So yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Go follow people. Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you so much for having.
This
This is
was,
so important. It's so especially for
it
like
is.
Black people and people of color to hear these kinds of conversations and normalize these conversations. I think you're absolutely
Yes.
smashing it and you're doing great work.
Oh, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you were even willing to talk to me. I know it's not easy sharing everything, about yourself that maybe you don't always talk about.
Right.
So I really appreciate you opening up to me and showing people that, you know, we all deal with challenges and it's okay to talk about it and it's okay to try to figure out how you can heal.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself. You are a work in progress, and no one really knows what they're doing.
And that wraps up this episode of Light Up the Darkness podcast. Thank you again to my guest, Heather Chelan. Be sure to follow her on all the platforms she mentioned at Heb on the web. And don't forget to follow this podcast on social media. You can find us on Instagram at LUTD_podcast, and we're also on Facebook. Thank you again for listening, and stay tuned for more.